What is your NSFW fantasy that will remain a fantasy? When I was younger, 48 male, a lot of partners used to scratch my back so hard it would draw blood. The shower the next day always stung in a very satisfying way. My wife won't do that no matter how elated she gets. She says she refuses to hurt me. However, these days, I'm an old dad. My fantasy is for the kids, 2 and 6, to go to bed early enough so that my wife and I aren't too tired. That would be awesome. I once had a dream where I made love with the physical embodiment of the ocean. She wrapped me in her waves and covered me with her foam, totally beyond my understanding. I would have happily drowned in her, but she pushed me back to shore by the end and left me stones of 5 colors. Also, she spoke Spanish, or some dream version of it. I never came so hard in all my life, like my legs were full of batteries. By far the most intense dream I've ever had, and it'll never happen again. Being taken against the wall of an upscale performing arts center by my significant other who's wearing a tux while I wear a fancy dress. Or being teased and felt up in the back of an Uber or limo in the same garb following such an event. And of course an all-night F-fest that leaves our bedroom looking as if a windstorm blew through it and our bodies completely sore and worn out. Naturally, A to B to C would be great. Or B to C. 3 sons. I was given the opportunity to be in one recently, but the thought of it just seemed weird. My ex and her significant other were also the ones offering, so that may have been an attributing factor. Being able to go to some private cabin rental where my wife and I could live completely naked and do it whenever we wanted, could swim in a pool hot tub for a week or so. My husband and I did this for our honeymoon. Rented an Airbnb for a long weekend and only packed 2 pairs of clothes for when we went to the store for stuff to grill. It was on a private lake in southern Illinois and the closest neighbor was 3 miles away. Nothing compares to waking up, doing it while the oven is preheating, then taking a morning hot tub time together while the cinnamon rolls are baking. 10 out of 10 recommend. Doing it while hundreds of people watch. I had a dream about that when I was much younger and the thought of it turned me on so much. People keep saying I could post a video online, but in my fantasy it's me having X while people watch live. Almost like in a theater setting. In my dream we were in a glass box with a curtain that rose to reveal us effing. Everyone watched as if it were a theatrical event. It also had a very secret society, eyes wide shut quality about it. I want to be taken unaware out of my daily life and dropped off unprepared in the wilderness and hunted down, but instead of dying when I'm caught it ends in rough animalistic adult act. I doubt I'll ever be a demon summoned one night by a young woman looking for vengeance and the cost of my services being her becoming my toy. Public stuff. Vibrating underwear, a quickie in a back room. I would love to, but strangers don't consent to my kink and I would never want to put some random person in a situation like that. I had this issue my entire life up until about a year ago. I went through a phase where I had a fair amount of casual X, and whenever I saw another woman's body, I was never focused on any imperfections. I was just stoked to be there, to be honest. They'd even point out insecurities, and they never even registered for me. I liked all of their body because I liked them. I realized that if I didn't care about other women's perceived flaws, people probably wouldn't care about mine either. And they truly didn't. I learned to be kinder to myself about my body, focusing on self-compassion rather than self-esteem. Yeah, there are still bits about me I'm not a fan of, but overall, it's my body. It can do amazing things, it tells my story, and I appreciate it. Any stretch marks or scars or flabby bits are mine and part of my history. I can probably safely say that I love my body now, I enjoy showing it off, and I wish I'd reached this stage earlier. Private island. Doing it on the beach. Since it's a fantasy, the sand is this magical material that looks the same and feels cool and soft, but does not stick to your body. Not a grain of sand in any crevices to stick to any of your parts. It doesn't matter if you're wet from the ocean, sweaty, etc. No sand anywhere. Just the sun, crashing ocean waves, and my magic sand. And my hair looks awesome damp and wind-blown, not like the tangled, unbrushed mop that it usually looks like when it's wet and windy. Going down on a woman lying on a grand piano on the stage of a beautiful opera house, without an audience, LOL. I just think the setting would be beautiful. Gorgeous opulent rooms turn me on, add a beautiful woman to that scenario. My perfect fantasy. BJ's. Did all kind of debauchery in bed, toys, plugs, softcore stuff. But when it comes to BJ's, she just won't do it, says she doesn't like it. I respect my woman and her likes and dislikes in bed, but since this is the first and only real relationship I got ever since I was 19, 25 now, getting a BJ is just this fantasy for me. We went to a swinger club for the first time a little over a year ago. We'd never fooled around with anyone else as a couple. It was all just dirty talk during X, but we thought it might be fun to go to our local club here and just check it out. We figured that the worst that could happen is it turns out to be gross and we just leave with a wild memory. Before we went, we decided we weren't going to do it with anyone else under any circumstances, but we might play together in one of the playrooms. The club was actually nice. Not fancy, but very clean, very professionally run, and clearly very serious about keeping people safe. We met the nicest, most welcoming people of all body types, ages, and walks of life. We were nervous as hell, but we had fun being out, dressed up, dancing, and being social. The vibe was very adult. Lots of great costumes and scantily dressed people. It was a pirate-themed night. Around midnight, we wandered back to the rooms where the magic happens. It was wild to see everybody doing things I'd only seen in Korn. Eventually, we decided to do it just to check that box and put a bow on the whole experience. We were in a pretty open room, but there were only one or two other couples in there at the time. They seemed to be pretty absorbed in what they were doing and not watching us, but my wife was so nervous she couldn't enjoy herself at all. Cut to New Year's Eve last weekend. We're back at that club, in that same room, but this time there has to be 20 to 30 plus people doing it in there. During a water break, I was laying on a mattress with a cute and very enthusiastic woman I barely know under my arm, and I was looking up at the mirrors on the ceiling, watching my wife going down on some guy. We were both having fun and super comfortable. I had to laugh. It's pretty crazy how far you can go if you just start taking baby steps. Honestly, just an intimate session where you can feel that they love you for who you are. You feel warm and fuzzy, and all the stress just drips away. You feel happy and content. It's just you and them. Best part is, I totally misunderstood the prompt when writing. I mean, just because you can't get a girl doesn't mean you do it. There's jobs to help. Boyfriend turns into an alien monster and destroys me with his 100 tentacles. I break into Tiffany's at midnight. Do I go for the vault? No, I go for the chandelier. It's priceless. As I'm taking it down, a woman catches me. She tells me to stop. It's her father's business. She's Tiffany. I say no. We make love all night. In the morning, the cops come and I escape in one of their uniforms. I tell her to meet me in Mexico, but I go to Canada. I don't trust her. Besides, I like the cold. 30 years later, I get a postcard. I have a son and he's the chief of police. This is where the story gets interesting. I tell Tiffany to meet me by the Trocadero in Paris. She's been waiting for me all these years. She's never taken another lover. I don't care. I don't show up. I go to Berlin. That's where I stashed the chandelier. Phew. All right, let's go down the catalog. Valkyries, werewolves, ancient Roman noblewoman, hot spy lady, alien abduction, Heather's cosplayers, mad scientist enslaves me on a submarine, Roma fortune teller, astronaut, arrested by Royal Canadian mounted policewoman, trapped in women's prison. Yes, it's just a list of Johnny Bravo episodes. Why? A softly spoken artsy girl once took me to her apartment after a date, told me how sexy she found my voice, and then asked me to read a monologue from Waiting for Godot. At the time, I had no idea what the heck that play was about, and found the prose to be pompous and confusing. But the girl got all hot and bothered, stripped off and hungrily went down on me. I made sure to make my oration extra slow and husky to get her off. It was the best ever. Such a vivid memory. Every time I see that play mentioned or advertising, I feel a stirring in my loins. Years later, my wife is the polar opposite of that. But I would love to genuinely get her off by reading something sexy in her ear. And an unobtainable fetish would be having a girl sexily whisper some poem or other passage in my ear while I slowly F her missionary. I love my wife, but her voice tone is not her strong point. Aubrey Plaza does an ASMR on YouTube that gets me close. Doing it in my beautiful 5-bedroom home with views of water, designed by me with its own large, expansive porch, lots of natural lighting, nestled in among some pines. Also complete with a large greenhouse space acting as the central piece of the home. Told my ex-girlfriend I always had a fantasy of being with 2 women at the same time. I said ideally you and your clone. Make it seem a little lighter. She responded with, "You want me to watch you cheat on me with myself?" Of the dumbest fights I'd ever have. Hitting it off incredibly with my crush, just like going on a date with her and then having so much fun and building so much tension that the ex is incredibly passionate and we both sleep hugging each other. Doing it with a pregnant woman. It's quite a conundrum. As a lesbian, I don't have any intentions of getting pregnant myself or ever having kids. So even if I got a girlfriend or something, she can't be the one pregnant. And finding an attractive pregnant woman who wants to do it with another woman. It shall remain as a wonderful fantasy. I develop a time travel machine that sends my consciousness, including all of my memories, back to my body at any time period. Like a controllable Groundhog Day. I use this power to try over and over again until I succeed at dating every single person I've ever been even mildly attracted to. I always had the fantasy of getting a BJ under the desk while I work and talk to some clients in person. Lost the chance while I was working as an engineer. Now that I'm in med school, I know that I will never do this. I would never disrespect my patients like this, and it'll never be worth it. Closest I did was receiving a BJ while taking a work-related video call. That was fun. Be absolutely used by all of my female friends or acquaintances for one entire day, only I don't know who it is because I'm blindfolded. Essentially, I'm either tied to a bed or a chair, and whoever decides to show up gets to do whatever their heart desires. They want to ride me, sure. They want to ride my face, great. They want me to fully take control and let me do whatever I want, amazing. I just can't find out who the one using me is. It has to remain a fantasy mystery so that way going forward, I'm always wondering who I did X to and who got to take out any frustration or desires out on me. Every time I go out to drinks with friends or going to the movies, doing whatever it is, it's always going to be a mystery on who showed up, and if they did, how did they use me? If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Also check out our other videos and have an amazing day.